Hi, I'm Robert.
Hi, I'm Yudee.
Yudee, are you an active learner?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. If you're an active learner, you'll want to learn about passive voice. In this tutorial, we will cover the following items.
What?
Yeah, what is active voice and what is passive voice?
Why?
Why make passive voice? We'll answer that question as well.
How?
And how to make it? We'll tell you how. We'll practice changing the voice together in sentences. We'll give you examples and sentences for you to practice on as well.
What is voice?
Voice is a style or way of writing. It is the author's choice. The author is the writer. The author can choose to use passive or active voice up to the situation, up to the sentence, and up to what they want to stress in the sentence. It's usually because they want to stress the object in the sentence more than the subject.
What is voice not?
Well, voice is not a verb tense, and it does seem strange because we do change the verb. However, it does not change the verb tense. We'll discuss this further in this video. We'll talk about how to change the verb in a passive voice sentence here, but not change the verb tense. We'll deal with changing verb tenses in passive voice in a future video.
Why use passive voice?
The first reason is because it's the author's choice of the style. If you are sitting down to write some kind of essay or research or theses, you will use a lot of passive voice. Also, for any of the proficiency tests, for example, TOEFL, IELTS, TOEIC, CPE, CAE, PTE, you will need to show your ability to use passive voice. Finally, we use it for paraphrasing as well. Another reason is that the subject is unnecessary to the meaning of the sentence. Let's take an example.
The passive voice is used for academic writing.
This is a passive voice sentence. The active voice sentence would be, academic writers use the passive voice for academic writing. You don't need that information because in the passive voice, the information is obvious anyway. So the subject is unnecessary in this case.
Homework is collected before class begins.
Excellent. We'll use this sentence later in a more close-up look example, but here the active sentence, teachers collect homework before class begins. Everyone knows it's the teacher that collects the homework. Therefore, the subject, teachers, is unnecessary to the sentence. Let's review the correct passive voice sentences. The passive voice is used for academic writing. Homework is collected before class begins. Sometimes the object or the action is more important to the writer or to the author. Maybe you are writing about latex gloves or doctors.
Latex is used to make doctors' gloves.
Excellent. That's the passive voice, and the active voice would be factories use latex to make doctors' gloves. But you don't care about the factories as the author. You're just writing about either the doctors or the gloves. The subject of this sentence, factories, is unnecessary to your essay, so you can cut it out by using the passive voice.
Another example of passive voice.
Maybe you're talking about cars or you want to write about automobile production.
Millions of automobiles are produced every year.
And the active voice would be car manufacturers produce millions of automobiles every year. It may be that your essay is about the production of cars or the number of cars, but not about the car manufacturers. Hence, you can delete the subject car manufacturers if your topic is more about the number of cars produced, or possibly even the amount of pollution in the atmosphere. Maybe you don't know the subject. Let's look at the example of Stonehenge. We don't know who built it. Let's make a passive voice sentence about Stonehenge.
Stonehenge was built in several stages.
And the active voice, somebody built Stonehenge in several stages. You can see somebody is the active voice subject, but somebody sounds like you don't know who, and even if we don't know who it is, maybe we don't want to show that we don't know. Instead, we're showing the knowledge that we do know, which is that it was built in several stages. You can delete the active subject somebody and make it sound like you are 100% knowledgeable about your subject. Finally, we can use passive voice to be neutral, that we're not taking a side. Neutral means being fair to everyone involved. Here is an example of a neutral statement.
An error was made in this report.
Maybe you are the boss and you found an error in a report, but you don't want to blame someone specifically. If you put the subject in the active sentence, you would be naming someone directly.
Bruce made an error in this report.
Yeah, maybe you're not quite sure if it was Bruce or not, or maybe there was some other circumstance that caused the error. So instead of blaming Bruce, you can use the passive voice. An error was made in this report. It sounds more neutral.
How to make passive from active?
Number 1, identify the object of the sentence and put it in the position of the subject.
Number 2, change the verb by adding a form of be and changing the main verb to verb 3.
Ah, verb 3. You mean the past participle, don't you?
Yes.
In Thailand, teachers use verb 1, verb 2, verb 3 to mean the present, past, and past participle of the verb. It is a shorthand that is quite easy to refer to the different forms of the verb. Number 3 is optional, up to the author. If you want to include the subject in a passive voice sentence, after the changed verb form, you would write by and then include the subject.
Number 4, leave prepositional phrases in place.
We're going to look at different examples of leaving prepositional phrases in place, and there are also other things that you leave in place. What is active voice?
The subject performs the action.
Exactly right. That is what active voice means. It means the agent or the subject is doing the action upon the object. For all passive voice sentences, you need to change an active voice sentence that has an object. If the active voice sentence doesn't have the object, you cannot make it passive. We're looking at SVO, subject, verb, object.
Firefighters fight fires.
Excellent. That's an active voice sentence. What's the subject?
Firefighters.
And the object?
Fires.
The active voice sentence has the subject firefighters fight fires. It is active because the subject acts on the object. Passive voice is a little bit different. We need an object and then a verb be and then the past participle of the verb. In this case, we'll include the subject firefighters. What was the object of the last sentence?
Fires.
Fires it is. What is the correct verb form for be for fires?
Are.
Are is correct. What verb did we use?
Fight.
Yes, fight. What is the verb 3 form of fight?
Fought.
Fought is correct. And finally, we add the subject. What was the subject of the last sentence?
Firefighters.
Perfect. Firefighters. And because this is a passive voice sentence and we're including the subject after the verb, we need by. So the full passive voice sentence is...
Fires are fought by firefighters.
Perfect. Now we'll do an example of an active voice sentence with a prepositional phrase in it.
The delivery person brings packages to your desk.
Excellent. Here, the prepositional phrase to your desk at the end of the sentence will remain in place. The subject is the delivery person. And what's the verb?
Brings.
Yes, brings. In this case, we have an S on the end of the verb because delivery person is singular. Therefore, we add an S to present tense verbs. And the object?
Packages.
Packages is the object. And finally, we have to your desk as our prepositional phrase. The delivery person brings packages to your desk. The passive voice version of this sentence will leave the prepositional phrase in place and we will delete the subject again. So we must begin with the object. What was the object?
Packages.
Packages was the object. What form of be will we use?
Are.
Are is correct because packages is plural. And what was the original verb in the active voice sentence?
Bring.
Bring or brings, correct. And what's the verb 3 form for it?
Brought.
Brought is correct. Excellent. We're going to delete the subject and leave the prepositional phrase in place. The prepositional phrase to your desk stays where it is.
Packages are brought to your desk.
Excellent. Because we all know it will be the delivery person that brings them, we don't really need it in the sentence. Shall we look at another example of an active voice sentence? This time we're going to include an adverbial clause. We already have a sentence that we used at the beginning of this tutorial with an adverbial clause in it. Do you remember what it was?
Teachers collect homework before class begins.
This is an active voice sentence. What's the subject?
Teachers.
Yes, teachers. And the object?
Homework.
Homework is the object. Finally, the adverbial clause is before class begins. We'll use the picture of the clock to represent the adverbial clause before class begins. Let's change that sentence into passive voice. For passive voice, we know that we have to begin with the object and then some form of be in verb 3. This time we're going to delete the subject and leave the adverbial clause in place. What was the object of that sentence?
Homework.
Homework it is. And what form of the verb be do we use?
Homework is uncountable, so we use the singular verb is.
Correct. And what was our verb?
Collect.
Collect was the verb, and what's the verb 3 form for collect?
Collected.
Collected, yes. This is what's called a regular verb. Regular verbs have the same form for verb 2 and verb 3. The past and past participles are the same. Now we're going to delete by plus subject and just add the adverbial clause, which is before class begins. So the correct sentence is:
Homework is collected before class begins.
Let's do a little practice. We will give you an active voice sentence and you can change it to the passive voice.
Number 1. This new computer program frustrates my colleagues.
Now you can pause the video, try it yourself, and then start the video again. Here is the answer. My colleagues are frustrated by this new computer program.
Number 2. Highly trained, expert pilots fly most commercial airplanes.
Pause again. Wait for the answer. Most commercial airplanes are flown by highly trained, expert pilots.
Number 3. Somebody stole all of the money from the office safe.
And the answer? All of the money was stolen from the office safe. This is our first example of a sentence using the past tense. We left it to the end to introduce to you this idea that the past tense changes only the verb form be. For better understanding, we will explain more about verb tense changes in passive voice in part 2.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy our video tutorials.
Please like and comment below the video. We would love to hear from you.
Also, to get our newest tutorials, subscribe to our channel Eastland English and click notifications to get a message every time we upload a new video. See you next time.
See you.